You've been learning about proportional relationships. Another way to represent a proportional relationship is with a graph. So, what does the graph of a proportional relationship look like? This is LaTanya working out at the gym. She noted the calories burned at 3 times during her workout, after 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and 30 minutes. How can LaTanya use this information to find how many calories she burned after 15 minutes of exercise? What are some ways you can represent this situation? One way you can represent this situation is on the coordinate plane. Step 1. Use a graph to display the data. When x is 10, y is 95. The point 10, 95 is on the graph. When x is 20, y is 190. When x is 30, y is 285. Draw a line through the points. The graph is a straight line through the origin. The relationship between exercise time, x, and calories burned, y, is proportional. Step 2. Use the graph to find the constant of proportionality. Find the differences between the coordinates of any two ordered pairs. The first point represents 10 minutes and 95 calories. After 10 more minutes, she burned 95 more calories, for a total of 190 calories. After another 10 minutes, she burned 95 more calories, for a total of 285 calories. The constant of proportionality is 95 tenths, or 9 5/10. Use the graph and the constant of proportionality to find how many calories LaTanya burned after 15 minutes of exercise. The graph shows that the number of calories is close to 150. Now remember that constant of proportionality is K, which is equal to the ratio y to x. An equation that represents this relationship is y equals k times x. Which variable has a value of 15?
Select your answer.
Substitute 9 5/10 for k and 15 for x. Then simplify. Y equals 142 5/10. So LaTanya burned 142 5/10 calories after 15 minutes.
Describe the relationship between the cups of cereal, X, and the grams of protein, Y, from the given graph.
So they are asking for us to describe this. So I'm going to point out a few things. So first thing is on the x-axis here, we have all of the cups of cereal, the different amounts of cups of cereal, and then on the y part of the axis we have all the grams of protein. So looking at the points, starts at 0 and then the line goes through all the points across here in the way where they're already proportional because it's a straight line. But they want us to explain this relationship. So let's see that K is our constant when we talked about that last lesson. So let's take a look at the graph here. So we have, let me use a different color. K is our constant. So that constant is how the points progress. So you can count from 0, 1, 2, 3, and it goes over 2. So it'll be rise, and you'll hear that a lot later. Rise over run is going to rise over run. That's going to equal the constant. So for each one of these points, it's going to do the same thing. So we have 1, 2, 3 over 2. 1, 2, 3 over 2. So that constant will be 3 over 2. So that it will be, the relationship is that they're all proportional, and that constant is that 3 over 2. And the equation for that, let me write it over here, it would be y is equal to k times x. So every time that you need to find another point, you would use that equation and just put in, for x and y, your coordinates, and then your constant is here 3 over 2.
The table shows a proportional relationship between the distance and the amount of time Mr. Brown drives. Part A. Use a graph to display the data in the table.
Mr. Brown drives 0 miles in 0 hours. He drives 55 miles in 1 hour. And then this point is 275 miles in 5 hours. That is all written here. And if you look, the y coordinate, when x is 1, that's going to be your constant when it's at 1, because that's like a unit rate. So that becomes your constant. So y is equal to 55 times x, and you would be able to apply that 55 to every point on this number line to graph a different point.
Graph the proportional relationship given the equation y equals 1/2 times x.
Step 1, use the equation to find the value of y for each value of x. So we start with 0 and 0. The constant of proportionality is the value of the ratio y over x, or 1/2, which is represented by k in the equation. So this is what that equation is. Y equals k times x. Step 2, plot the points 0 and 0, 2 and 1, 4 and 2, and 6 and 3 on the number line. They've done that for us. The graph is proportional because it is a straight line that passes through the origin, which is 0.
Use the given graph to complete the table. Then write an equation representing the relationship.
Use the given graph to complete the table, then write an equation representing the relationship. So if you see the graph, we start at 0 and 0, the point. So our first x in the graph is 0, and so our y is 0. That's our origin. Then we look at the next point, and it's at 2, and that's our x value. Then we look to the left, and we see that that point on the y-axis is between 2 and 4. So our value is 3. Then we look at the graph again, and we look at the next point we can place on that line, and it's at 4 on the x-axis. Then we look at the y-axis to the left, and that number on the y-axis is 6. So the next value in our graph will be, in our table will be 6. So then it says write an equation to represent this relationship. So now we're going to take the values we have in our table to create our equation. So we're going to use the equation y is equal to k times x. Our x value is 0, our y value is 0, and we're going to plug in these values into our equation to represent this relationship. We're going to take our 3 and place it in the value of the y, and we're going to take our x and replace it with the value of 2, and then we have our k, which is our slope. Now we are going to solve for k. So we're going to do the inverse of multiplying, because k times 2 is what that says. So we're dividing 3 and 2. So 3 divided by 2 is equal to k. Now we're going to take the next value, which is 6 as y, and we're going to use 4 as our x. And we're going to solve for k again. So we're going to do the inverse, which is divide. So we're going to divide both sides by 4. So we have 6 divided by 4 is equal to k. And if we simplify 6 over 4, we're dividing by the greatest common factor of 2. And we're going to get 3 over 2 again, which is that same value of k we got with the first set of numbers. So our equation here would be y is equal to 3 over 2 times k. And so that means, times x. And so that means that whatever point on this line that continues on forever, this is the equation we use.